What's going on, man? Welcome back to the basement. Amron, hold on. Let me get this purple light in so I can get everything, let me get the ambiance of the video ready for you guys. Boom. Now we got a little bit of a purple light. Also got the signed Manziel jersey in the background because I don't care anymore. I used to always have that hung up. Everybody got mad at me in the comments for it. I always had it in a spot where it was just in frame, but now it's going to be right in the background because Johnny Manziel signed jersey that I got for $30 needs to be in the background of my videos. Now, I'm going to say I don't have a sponsorship with Pristine Auction or anything, but I think I'm going to hop on there and go see if I can, score myself a nice, I would like a signed DeAndre Swift jersey, or like a signed DJ Moore jersey, a signed AJ Brown jersey. Those would go hard. Maybe even like a college one, like a Tyler Hero Kentucky, Tyler Hero Miami Heat. I like Tyler Hero a lot. I like Tatum a lot. So there's a lot of guys out there. Let me know if you guys have any recommendations. I don't know. I'd even like something crazy like, Reggie Bush USC signed jersey, but that's got to be like $1 million. Now, task at hand. I don't know what I've been talking about this entire time, if I'm being honest with you guys, but the task at hand today, we're going to go over my top 5 must-add running backs for Week 10 waiver wires. Now, I'm going to be honest here. I say top 5 running backs, but I have like 4 honorable mentions, so it's almost like top 10 running backs off the waiver wire. Now, house rules, all of these players are under 50% owned on ESPN leagues, and I'm going to have an entire article for you guys on Patreon, patreon.com/Ron Stewart. I go over the entire waiver wire slate. I go over like the top 10 to 15 players at every position, how much fab I'm bidding on them, a little bit of a blurb, like kind of where I'm at with those players. Now, with that being said, let's stop wasting time. Let's get straight into these running backs. Let's go.
Thirsty, trying to choose. I know I'm pretty cool.
Now, I forgot to say it before the intro, but make sure you go down below, subscribe, and leave a like. We put daily content on this channel, even more than daily. I think we're going to get 9 videos this week. Again, we got 9 last week. I think we'll get 9 this week. We're setting season highs in, video output mid-season. We're not slowing down at all on the Ron Stewart channel. Now, the first running back that will be headlining my top 5 running backs this week, Devonta Freeman. And it's weird, man. If you told me like in the middle of the offseason, like July, and you said, hey, man, you're going to be doing a nice little blurb right up here on Devonta Freeman by like week 10, I'd be shocked. But, this is how decimated the running back position is at this point. Now, Chase Edmonds getting hurt. We have all kinds of players getting hurt. Chris Carson, who knows what's the problem with Chris Carson. But Devonta Freeman has as much shit as I'm giving him right now, he's actually been pretty good for the Ravens. And I think some of that has to do with, Lamar Jackson. He's amazing. His just rushing ability instills just the absolute fear in the defense that one guy in the box is, pissing down their leg because Lamar Jackson's going to hit like a read option and kind of freeze everybody. So it gets just that much more of, a split second of, space, hesitation from the linebackers that freeze everything up. Like if you look at pretty much like rushing quarterbacks, their running backs are always more efficient in terms of yards per carry. That's why Gus Edwards has like a career yards per carry over like 5.5, which is just insane. But Devonta Freeman now has 3 straight 10+ point games in PPR leagues. He just had 13 carries for 79 yards and 3 catches for 25 yards, and he's been really efficient as well. He's 3rd in yards per carry, 10th in rushing grade, 5th in first down and touchdown percentage among running backs with 30 or more carries. So he has just been really solid on a team that sets up running backs for success here. And as long as Latavius Murray is out, Devonta Freeman is going to be a fringe RB2. And this week, he has a Thursday night game. So that's a short week, right? Because he played Sunday. They're going to play Thursday. I doubt Latavius Murray suits up here, which means that he is going to be, again, that 1A type back in this backfield against a Miami defense that is allowing the 6th most fantasy points to opposing running backs. So I don't mind Devonta Freeman as an ad this week. I will say none of these guys are priority ads. I'm not really spending more than like 15 to 20% of my fab on any of the guys mentioned on this list, which brings us into the next running back, which I hate that I have to put him on here, Jordan Howard. My line for this is the Eagles' backfield sucks. I hate Nick Sirianni. The whole offense just makes no sense. First, the start of the season, they were one of the pass heaviest teams in the NFL. They were literally abandoning Miles Sanders in the run game. I remember Miles Sanders had I think he had 7 touches against the Cowboys on that Monday night game. Miles Sanders all of a sudden leaves, he gets hurt, and this team becomes the run heaviest team in the NFL. They're the Ravens with Boston Scott and Jordan Howard at running back. It just makes no sense. They were using Boston Scott as their lead guy in this new, run-first identity, which is weird because Boston Scott is this pass-catching back. He's like 5'5", maybe 5'6", 5'7", in his good shoes. He's not really between the tackles grinder. Then they come out this week and do what they probably should have done last week, where Jordan Howard acted as the between the tackles grinder with 17 opportunities in total. The problem is that there's no continuity here. And on top of that, Kenneth Gainwell is, in my opinion, the best running back in this backfield. So Kenneth Gainwell could play his way into more touches. I don't think that there is any kind of reliability here, which is why I wouldn't go head over heels for Jordan Howard. But now we have Jordan Howard back-to-back weeks with 13 or more PPR points. In my opinion, he's a desperation RB play while Miles Sanders is gone. He's not terrible, but in my opinion, he's just, a speculative add. Then I want to talk about the Patriots backfield. So we're talking about Brandon Bolden, Rhamondre Stevenson. And I want to talk about Rhamondre Stevenson season in the top 10 lessons learned video, but I figured, I'd save it for the waiver wire video. Rhamondre Stevenson went crazy. The guy had 106 yards on 12 touches. And you guys know, I can't stop talking about Rhamondre Stevenson. I couldn't stop talking about him as a 0 RB candidate in the offseason. I love Rhamondre Stevenson from a talent perspective. He's a 4th round pick, so nothing crazy, but he has the size, the agility, the burst. He looked really good in the preseason. He can catch, he can pass block, he can do the between the tackle stuff. Rhamondre Stevenson can do it all. Problem is, though, is that Rhamondre Stevenson got a head injury. So Damian Harris gets a head injury. He leaves. Rhamondre Stevenson comes in, looks like the greatest running back to ever touch turf. Then he gets an injury. So now I have to include Brandon Bolden here, because Brandon Bolden can now be the lead back, because if Damian Harris is hurt and Rhamondre Stevenson is hurt, he's the only guy left with J.J. Taylor. J.J. Taylor is not going to be, I think he's also like 5'5", 5'6". He's not going to be the between the tackles workhorse guy. If Rhamondre Stevenson and Damian Harris both miss time, I imagine they probably bring somebody up from the practice squad, or, some crazy guy that Bill Belichick has in the wings. But I think given the fact that Damian Harris is having some health issues, Rhamondre Stevenson looks so good, and that Rhamondre Stevenson could miss time, which frees up, playing time for Brandon Bolden, that Brandon Bolden, Rhamondre Stevenson are both pretty good adds this week in fantasy. Which brings us to Carlos Hyde, and he had the most Carlos Hyde stat line of all time. He had 22 touches, and he only put up 6.3 points in PPR leagues. Here's the thing, though. The very simple thing with Carlos Hyde is that as long as James Robinson is out, which he was out this week, he will be an RB2, a fringe RB2. We're talking like RB23, RB24 area, just based off that workload. Any running back that is getting 22 touches needs to be in the top 24 conversation. Now, I know he didn't convert it into fantasy points, but they played the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills are a pretty good defense. They had them in a weird game script where it was like 9-6. It didn't feel like a football game. It felt like, like a Big Ten game between like Wisconsin and like Michigan State, you know what I mean? But regardless, as long as James Robinson is out, just keep an eye on, is James Robinson going to play this week? Carlos Hyde needs to be on rosters if James Robinson is out. It's actually kind of ridiculous to me that 7 out of 10 leagues he was on waivers even with James Robinson declared out, which goes to show that this is the spot of the fantasy season in which we are at, where your league mates are going to be sleeping, fellas. Catch them sleeping. Go grab a Carlos Hyde. Go grab these running backs off waivers. I think another one that is a low-key ad here is Alex Collins. I don't see a lot of people talking about him, but I like him as this low-key ad where, your league mates are sleeping. You can grab him off waivers. He's had 10-plus touches, 10 or more touches since week 4. And I want to show you guys this report from November 6th from a doctor on Twitter I respect. His name is Jeff Mueller. And he puts the timetable from IR from all the players. Chris Carson has a question mark. Apparently, Chris Carson's going to try for this week, but he could potentially miss the entire season with a neck injury. The guy is still on IR. They haven't activated him from IR. And I was telling you guys, I don't know if I said it on a waiver wire video. I said it somewhere last week. A lot of people were saying, Russell Wilson is due back week 12 or something like that. Dude, Russell Wilson wants to play. The guy is a dog. He got the pin removed out of his finger. He is now cleared, ready to go week 10. I want to say he's going to be suiting up 2 or 3 weeks ahead of schedule. The guy is an absolute maniac, Russell Wilson. I respect the hell. He's cringy, but I respect his, he's got some legit, perseverance. That's crazy. He showed a picture on Instagram of a legit pin in his finger. The guy literally, he had a, what do they call it? Mallet finger, where before the injury, he literally couldn't bend his finger. And it was on his throwing hand too, I believe. I could be wrong, but I believe it's on his throwing hand. He's going to be back this week. The whole offense gets a huge upgrade. And then Alex Collins, if he's the main back in a Russell Wilson-led offense, that's extremely, extremely valuable. You could make the case to put the most fab on Alex Collins out of this entire group, to be honest. Which then brings us to our honorable mentions. We have 4 running backs here. First one we're going to talk about is Ty Johnson. And he's kind of going under the radar because he played on Thursday. Now, he doesn't have a ton of upside because this offense kind of caps him a little bit. They're not going to produce RB1 numbers. I mean, I guess Michael Carter has put up RB1 numbers in the past, but he doesn't have much upside from a standalone standpoint is what I'm saying. He's essentially a he's like a poor man's Tony Pollard, where he's a handcuff for Michael Carter with some standalone value. He has 4 games in a row now with 10 or more points in those games. Will that streak continue? I'm not sure, but he's just a nice, he has some standalone value. You can put him in the RB2 spot, pray for 10 points. Michael Carter goes down, then he's a locked and loaded, top 20 option. Which brings us to Eno Benjamin. This is simply Chase Edmonds got hurt. He's going to be gone for the next, 3-4 weeks. He is the next man up after James Conner, so that's always valuable in an offense as high scoring as the Cardinals. And then he's going to assume some of the Chase Edmonds role because he is a receiving back himself out of Arizona State. He has a very similar profile as one of those, undersized guys. I kind of call him, I would say that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is kind of like a fancy version of Eno Benjamin, one of these undersized guys that kind of wins laterally, is really good in the passing game. That's Eno Benjamin. I liked him as like a 0 RB candidate going into the season. Thing with Eno Benjamin is that I don't see him assuming the entirety of Chase Edmonds' role because James Conner's been playing so well. So I think that he's just going to mix in on passing downs, kind of like a Jeremy McNichols with Derrick Henry. Then we have Devonta Freeman, and Devonta Freeman is really fun. I loved him as a prospect. He ran a 4.51 at 6 foot, 233 pounds. That's like a 90 percentile plus speed score. He was a 3rd-round running back out of Texas. He tore his Achilles, though. That's what really derailed his career. Now, I will say that he looked really good on Sunday night. He was the most efficient running back. Now, I know he only had, I want to say like 5 carries for like 29 yards, but he had the most yards per carry. He was the most efficient. He had the most juice. He's not a priority ad where you need to go spend fab on him or anything, but he's interesting because if Jeremy McNichols or Adrian Peterson, Adrian Peterson could get cut. He could get hurt. He's like, 36 now? Devonta Freeman would be that next man up as a between-the-tackles guy on a Tennessee Titans team that wants to run the ball. Then our last running back, who I would say is actually at the top of this list, if I had to rank these guys in the honorable mentions, Sony Michel would be at the top of this list, and it's for this reason. It's that it makes no sense that he isn't rostered. To me, he's in the same, breath as an Alexander Madison, where if his starter goes down, he is a locked and loaded top 15 option. This is a high-scoring team in the Los Angeles Rams. There's no one behind him that will, challenge for rushes, anything like that. All they have is Jake Funk and, like Trey Regis. I can't remember who the other guys are, but Sony Michel is that next guy up. He would command literally the entire workload. And then on top of that, Henderson is a guy that hasn't stayed healthy. His entire career, he hasn't stayed healthy. I don't like to use the words injury prone, but we're now, a few games of his last, I think like 2 of his last 4 or 5 games, he has now had to come to the side, miss series, miss snaps because, some injuries nagging him, some kind of ding on the field. I think eventually these could, pile up, and then eventually you have Sony Michel as a nice top 15 type running back. So I would be holding on to him wherever I could. Now that's going to do it for us today, fellas. As always, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you go down below, subscribe, and leave a like. We just hit 7,000 subscribers the other day. I cannot thank you guys enough for that. I love you guys. Also, if you want access to my waiver wire article I put out every single Tuesday, it has top 10 to 15 players at every position. I have how much fab I would bid on all those players, nice little blurb on all those players, kind of what my thoughts are about them. So if you want to go out there, dominate waiver wires, take your league a little bit more seriously now that maybe you're in the top echelon, you're making playoffs, whatever the case may be, that is always available on the Patreon. It'll be in the description, it'll be in the comments. With all that being said, fellas, I'm going to get to work on the wide receiver version of this video. I love you guys. I'll see you guys for the waiver wire or the wide receiver video, and then we're doing trade targets on Wednesday. As always, I'll see you guys in the next one.
Yep. Juice, 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 juice. Yup. 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 Yup.